Hey everybody, Hostron here with another Star Trek First Edition video. We're going to be going over the new Nemesis release, the most recent First Edition set from the Continuing Committee. We're just going to go through this card by card. I'm just going to give initial impressions. We're not going to go too deep into this. I don't want this video to get too long. It is just me who's going to be commenting on this. So these opinions are entirely mine. You may have different opinions on things. But I'm just going to kind of give a brief thought on every card and just kind of an off-the-cuff grade for each card. So as you can see, there's 54 cards in the set. Here was the design team for the set. It is legal as of yesterday for play, so I hope everyone has a good time enjoying it. So I've already been working on a few decks. I'm using some of the cards. I haven't gotten into the Riemann stuff yet, so... But let's go over it. Let's just dive right in here. So first card's a little fun every day. Dilemma has a countdown 3. So once it's faced, basically it's only going to be a 3-turn wall at most. Place a mission now, and starting each attempt here, you cannot get past unless you have 3 people with total attributes less than 52 or 2 civilian present. This was Kaiser's. Johan on his channel. This was his preview card. He talked about it a lot. I'm not going to repeat or rehash anything that he said. What I think is that this is a dilemma that could definitely see play. I think that there are some interesting things that a person can do to put in front of this dilemma in order to get it to hit off. Having 2 civilians is not all too common. There are like the Jack Pack and some other situations where you'll have like 2 or more civilians pretty easy. So it's not really like a super reliable wall, but I think that there's a lot of like meta decks that are going to struggle with it, because like it's just the nature of the game is to try to put people down that have pretty high attributes and have the more traditional classifications: officer, medical, security, engineer, science, because those are much more useful against the broader array of dilemmas and are more necessary for most of the missions that are out there. So I think this is a dilemma that will see play should the meta provide an opening for it. So I think it's a good dilemma. Scale of 5, I'm giving it a 4, and we're moving on. High ground, planet dilemma. To get past, strength greater than 40 if mission shows less than 30 points. Strength greater than 50 shows 30 points. Greater than 60 if it shows more than 30 points. So this is going to basically be like a more than strength 60 in most situations. Like, you're going to basically just put this under a planet that's a 35 points or higher planet. So like most of the home worlds and stuff like that are going to like qualify you as strength greater than 60. So I think that this is a decent dilemma because in most situations strength greater than 60 is decent. There are no like additional ways to sneak past it, like, you know, Founder's Secret tends to be like the standard bearer for acquiring lots of strength on a planet, but it has kind of those additional ways of getting past it. So this doesn't really have that. The downside is that if one is to want to qualify strength, you know, Hanonian land Eel is only 10 less, and if your opponent micro teams into that one, someone dies, and it requires 2 different skills. So I think this dilemma is okay. I don't think that it is great. I think that there might be a place for it. At the very least, it doesn't let the opponent know what's behind it. So I'm going to give it a 3.5, 3.5 for this dilemma. It'll see some play, but I don't think it's going to be great. So Riemann Dagger, equipment. Each of your personal present has strength +1. You may mortally wound your Riemann present in personal battle to mortally wound their adversary. So first off, it just applies to everyone. So anyone can use this knife. There is no requirement for Romulans or Remans or whatever. Anybody can use it. So if you have a way to like get this into play for free, so like Dominion would have, they of course have the remote supply depot and stuff to play equipment for free. They can use it, but of course they're not going to use this over like card takens or what have you. So this will be something where you know, the Riemann deck might use it because of the fact that they have the ability to download it, but I guess I don't really know how important it's going to be when, you know, if getting this into play means losing a different personnel or discarding a card or something like that. You could have just played that card or kept that personnel in play, and you probably would have been better off. If you want to play a Riemann attack deck, it's like, well, you can certainly do that. The one thing that's interesting about this is that this line right here, you may mortally wound your Riemann present in personal battle to mortally wound their adversary. I don't think that there's any kind of cumulative effect on that, so or cumulative restriction on that. So I think that every time a Riemann battles or like is revealed and takes on their opponent, this would have the potential to trigger. So with just one copy of this, you can basically just like, if you can free play a bunch of Riemanns, get them to your opponent, whoever they match up against, you can just go 1 for 1, killing their people. So there's, I think, a possibility of a control deck here that you have your Riemann sacrifice themselves to carve out opponent skills, so that like wall dilemmas and stuff like that will still work, or your wall dilemmas would be that much more likely to work. So that's the interesting thing about Riemann Dagger. So I'm going to give this just a 3 because, you know, these hand weapons, they're not always the most useful, but this one might be useful because of that. So I'm gonna punt it and say it's just a 3. The Disruptor Rifle. This one is Riemann use only. Each of your personnel present is strength +3 cumulative. Your Riemanns present who have security or leadership all add officer. Keep in mind that this Riemann use only means that as long as there is a Riemann present, then they still extend the benefit to everybody. You just need to have a Riemann to activate the text. Your Riemanns who have security or leadership will add officer, so that's important for like beating Maglock or what have you, or any other dilemma that requires officer. So it allows you to kind of maybe not have as many officers in your deck and know that you're going to be able to beat Maglock with this, because adding strength +3 plus their natural strength means you can just beat Maglock with this. So obviously would be probably the standard weapon that you'd use if you're playing Riemanns, if you're playing a battle deck. So I'm just going to give this a 3. It's just kind of a standard thing in the game to have this available. So Riemann Scepter, another equipment. Once every turn, if present with your Riemann leader, draw a card when you play a Riemann or an equipment with Riemann in title. This is essentially a draw engine. It is once every turn. So if you have a way to get like a Riemann to play on your opponent's turn, you'd get a draw on that turn as well. Cards that are draw engines that do not seed, but you have an easy way of getting them into play, tend to be pretty good in this game because they just help you move your deck along. So this is probably, if you're playing the Riemann deck, you're gonna play this. If you're playing Riemanns at all, you're gonna be playing with this. So we'll give it a 4 just because of the fact that, like I said, any card that allows you to draw additional cards tends to be pretty good in the game. So we'll give this one a 4. Purchasing of the Riemanns, it's an event. Plays on table. Your Riemann personnel with security classification meet dilemma requirements as a civilian or VIP or female, but then they die. Or you can play to take a card from deliberately discarded into hand, discard event. So this either allows you to cheat past things, cheat past dilemmas, or when you've cheated past other things, or you've killed your remans to kill your opponent's stuff. If there's a key reman that you want to get back, you have the ability to do that. We'll go to deliberately discarded next in order to just kind of put these two thoughts together. Seeds on table. When your universal reman dies, if you have Remus in play, the location, place them here. Once each turn, you may place one card here beneath your draw deck, or discard 2 cards here to draw a card, or once per game, play 3 cards out of here to play to download a reman to Remus. So deliberately discarded allows you to kind of cycle through your remans, so that like when the universal ones die, you have the ability to like replace them by drawing them and then hopefully playing them for free, or you just get them back like under the first function. You know, these two cards together, these two cards together will definitely form an engine for them. I just don't know how many copies of like Oppression of the Remans you'd want to have in your deck. But if you understand that your deck is super weak to any of these 3 issues, you definitely want to have 1 or 2 in the deck. But I don't know that any of the remans downloaded. I don't think that they do. So you're going to have to draw and play this. And anytime a card costs a card play and doesn't necessarily do anything for you, tends to be a bit rough. So I don't think I can do anything more than give this like a 2, maybe a 2.5 for a rating. I feel like it's going to probably be necessary if you want to play a Reman deck, but realistically, you should be fleshing out your deck, your VIP civilians or females, you know, with other Romulans, because then they serve a variety of functions rather than this one being kind of narrow. So, just my thoughts on that. And then with deliberately discarded, this is obviously just strictly Reman based, so if you're playing a Reman deck, it seems like it might be absolutely necessary. So for that reason, we'll just go ahead and we'll give it a 4. You know, it's absolutely necessary in the deck that it's in, and it's worthless outside of it. So if you're playing the deck, it's a must-have. If you're not, who cares? So we tend to give those cards like let's give it a 3.5 then. So, all right. Personal Demons. Hidden Agenda event. Seeds or plays on table. While Shinzon is aboard the Scimitar, when a Fed or Romulan affiliation non-Reman personnel is killed, score 1 point for each. So, this is essentially a way for you to like squeak points out when you're like attempting missions and your non-Reman Romulan dies. So like you fleshed out your Reman deck, you know, with that, or you're choosing to play like an all property Romulan deck, and you just get Shinzon aboard the Scimitar. You can just kind of score some bonus points when your Romulans die, attempting missions and so forth. That being said, this card is really more of a payoff for activate Thaler on weapons. So we'll just go ahead and talk about that one next. This one plays on a homeworld. Target your Scimitar in Romulus system region, so either at Romulus or at Remus. If your staffed Scimitar is here, you may probe. You hit Romulan. You ignore Romulans when probing again, but the emitters are now extended. Then on a second probe, so on a subsequent turn, if you hit a command star, if the emitters are extended, generator is now primed, so then you'll know to bypass these two. So then on the third probe, ideally, if you hit interrupt, if generator's prime and weapon is deployed, all personnel at this mission or all missions in this region not aboard the Scimitar are killed, discard objective. So you get this into play, and then you start probing, and it is you may probe. So what you can do is if you have a way to get this into play, like on turn 2 or something, you can probe for Romulan. Then turn 3, you can probe for Command Star, and then once you've done that, you can just wait, and as long as you protect, and as long as you protect, you have a staffed scimitar at the end of turn, in that Romulus system region at the home world, you will then be able to then probe for the interrupt whenever you choose. And so what you do is solve a couple of missions, you've probed for that along the way, and then once you've done that, you just get all your Romulan people back into the Romulus system region. You probe for that, they all die, and your personal demons score some bonus points. And so then, like, ideally you'd score like 5 to 10 bonus points, most likely for killing all of your non-Reman Romulans. Theoretically, one could play a Federation deck and then just try to find a way to get Shins on aboard the Scimitar. And then just when your people die, you score bonus points. I guess I don't really know how good this is going to be, like how viable it's going to be, how quickly a person can like make this trick fire off. I don't know whether or not if enough of your people are going to die in order to make this worthwhile. I guess there's also the possibility here. I guess I'd have to. This is literally just off the top of my head right now, that you could also like turn the Genesis planet into space with a whole bunch of your people on it, and then they die, and then you'd score points for each of them when they die on the Genesis planet. That might seem a bit more like reliable than trying to like sit there and probe and then move people around and stuff like that and keep the scimitar staffed or whatever. Whereas if you just have Shins on aboard the scimitar and people die, you can do this. So I don't know, those are just thoughts. I'm gonna give this a 2. I just don't see this being an easy thing to do. I feel like there's so many other bonus point engines that will be better than that are better than this one, that I just don't see this being very good. And then with Activate Thaleron weapon, the fact that it takes 3 successful probes that you have to do in succession over time, and you have to have your staffed scimitar in the Romulus system region mission. At Romulus then. So it has to be in the Romulus system region when you play it, and then it has to basically be at a homeworld. So like I suppose you could play this like on Earth, and then just simply move the scimitar from the Romulus system region to that homeworld in order to do stuff. But I mean, as a way to kill your opponent's personnel at their homeworld, not going to happen, because they're just going to move. Once you get past Generator Prime, they're just going to leave their homeworld. They're not going to stay there. And then, as far as it being a use for, the previous event, that's a bit of a hoop to jump through. So I don't know. Fun card. I like the successive probing on this card. Makes it kind of fun, and I guess that's another objective you can put on a home world. So if taking charge, it's not a problem. For this to get into play, you just use taking charge to put it on a home world. So I'm gonna give it a 2.5, because I feel like this is useful in some way outside of just scoring the bonus points. Versatile Vessel Crew Transport. It's an event. Plays on your Nebula or Military Freighter class ship. Download rescue personnel to the ship. It may target an away team in same quadrant or at a different location. In same quadrant at a different location. So instead of having them be at either another quadrant or a time location, you can literally just rescue them at the planet next door. So, for that reason alone, it makes rescue personnel so much more useful. if you can play a Nebula class ship in a Deep Space Nine deck, or if you want to just simply break, because the Nebulas are all like TNG and stuff like that. But if you have another way of getting like rescue personnel into a deck, you can do that like multiple times, so that you can like in a Deep Space Nine deck, if you choose to play the Farragut, like a Q's tank, put Farragut into play at the end of the game, you can then like rescue personnel twice or something like that, score 10 points, and you don't even have to go very far. So it's interesting, but the Farragut being a generation, the card that downloads this, which is the Farragut, which is also in the set, the fact that it's got a movie logo on it means that it's not going to play well with a lot of decks. So I hope that there will be future cards that download this card, but with only one right now, it's not very good. So this is a card that I'm gonna put it as a 2 right now, but I think it has the potential to go up to like a 3.5 or 4 star quality if they give it some more cards to work with. Okay, moving on. Senate Chamber. Excuse me. Caesar plays on Romulus. Once each turn, your Romulan VIP or one Romulan officer with a Nemesis property logo or one HQ card may report for free here. There is a decent list of Romulan VIPs or Romulan officer with a Star Trek Nemesis property logo that can play for free here. If you're playing like all property Romulans, but you want to focus more on this grouping of personnel, this would be a good choice for your headquarters then. But the problem is that the other 2 headquarters on Romulus, Office of the Pro Council and the Continuing Committee, they can both be on Romulus at the same time. They have a much broader array of personnel that can be played for free, and of course they stack, so you can be playing 2 people for free at Romulus with a headquarters, which means that this headquarters will have some difficulty seeing play outside a movie deck, which then of course, it also just doesn't play well with the battle stations cards, which we're going to get to here pretty soon. And so like it's pointless other than just being a location to be able to play the people to. So I'm not really a huge fan. I feel like they restricted this too much. I feel like the Star Trek Nemesis property logo, I feel like that was just simply too restrictive. I don't know if they even considered extending this to just like all Romulan officers. So like all Romulan VIPs and all Romulan officers could play for free here. If that would have made it better, I think it probably would have. I think it would have then been able to compete as a viable headquarters versus the other 2 headquarters for Romulans. I don't think it would have been too much of an upgrade over them. So, I don't know. I don't see this being very good. They designed the set so that it all plays well together, but I don't see this playing well with any of the larger stuff. So, this is just another like 2.5 card. It's wow. This might be good in the deck that it's good in, but even that deck doesn't necessarily want this card. So, yeah. So we'll give it a 2.5. Just because of the fact that even though like on previous cards I said, oh, it's a 4 because it works well in the deck that it's in. Well, the problem is that this card is also restrictive. That like there's other cards that it's competing against directly. So yeah, 2.5 for this one. And here's the battle station cards. We're literally just going to talk about them as a group. So you need to have Sovereign class to make the things go. You have to be playing cards, personnel. You have to be playing personnel and ships that have one of the Next Generation movie property logos. You cannot download dilemmas or personnel, and you must activate or discard your hidden agenda cards. So it's all incredibly restrictive. And then the other two cards basically are you get to draw 3 cards. You draw 3 cards for free, but that's all you get. Or you get to play a unique and a universal for free, and or one Enigma, which is only the Borg Queen or Fontaine. And Fontaine will make you get rid of this, so Fontaine doesn't even really count. So you're basically playing one unique, one universal for free. You're drawing 3 cards, and then you have your card play, which you're probably spending on a person, you know. So this little suite here is really just for like new players. So you build around this in a simple deck using the movie property cards in order to enable, and then you give that to like a new player to teach them the game. So for that purpose, these cards are great. These cards are super great for having a cohesive deck that you can put together that's reliable to teach a new player about, okay, you draw these cards, you play these cards for free, and you keep it simple. But that being said, it's just terrible for everything else because Sovereign class is just so restrictive. It's so incredibly restrictive that really all of the like really interesting things that you can do in the game are not possible with Sovereign class. So, you know, I'm gonna give them a 3 because they are excellent at serving the purpose for which they were designed, but they're just way too restrictive to actually like enable anything else. So anyway, we'll just move on from that. We've done this one. Gauge the Borg. See it on table. Your AU Fed personnel with a Generations Insurrection or Nemesis property logo gain the first contact set symbol. Score 5 points each time you destroy a Borg ship dilemma or a Borg ship in battle. So what this is it allows the rest of the Federation, non-AU Federation personnel from the movies to be able to be played in an Enterprise E deck. Because otherwise your Federation flagship relaunched discards if they don't have either the first contact logo or the Enterprise E icon or the first contact set logo. So it adds a few more personnel available to that deck. Those people are pretty good for that deck. What's interesting is that you can play this in any deck to score 5 points each time you destroy a Borg ship dilemma or a Borg ship or an actual Borg affiliation ship in battle. So you can turn the Borg ship dilemma into a 20-point dilemma in order to round the corner. So if you're playing a battle deck, and you're like, well, I want to, battle decks tend to struggle with solving missions, and I want to try to like just solve 2 missions then to try to get a full win, or at the very least I solve 1 mission and I self-seed a Borg ship dilemma and I can like blow that thing up. It allows you to potentially like win a game. So I think this card is actually sneaky good. Of course, I'm a big fan of anything that may encourage the use of more Borg ship dilemmas. Then of course there's the fact that you can play with the new Q flash stuff, so you can score 10 points. You can set it up where the opponent faces the Borg ship dilemma, then faces the Q flash. They hit don't provoke the Borg, you score 10 points, then you can score 20 points off of that. So you can very easily just do 2 35-point missions and destroy the Borg ship dilemma to get a full win. So I think this is a good card. I'm going to give it a 3.5. 3.5, maybe a 4. It's limiting in what you're using it for, but if you're using it, it seems to be pretty good for like encouraging a new strategy in the game. So I like it. We'll go with that. Formidable Warriors. This is a reactor core card with a DS9 logo. You seed reshape the quadrant to download this. it's nullified if you have a time, location, a treaty, or any non-aligned card in play. So basically, you will only use this in order to give your remans the DS9 icon, and then it allows you to play a DS9 reman or a equipment with reman and title for free. So this becomes your card play engine. It's one of the options for a card play engine for a reman deck, but you can't have a time, location, or a treaty or a non-aligned card in play. So basically, this is the card that you're playing with if you're gonna play with remans and the Senate Chamber. So then the Senate Chamber gets you Nemesis Property Romulan for free. This gets you a DS9 reman for free, or one of the equipment cards for free, and that becomes like your 2 free plays, and then there you go. So but it is restrictive to then you're playing with DS9 Property Romulan. You're playing with DS9 Property Romulans. So so you would not be able to play with like the Nemesis icon ones. So you're not playing with Nemesis icon DS9s. Suppose that there are instead of the Senate Chamber, you would play the other 2 headquarters possibly, and then see, or at the very least, like DS9 Romulans have some intelligence, so you'd play with the headquarters for the play Tel Shiar for free. So then that'd be that, and then this is your two free plays. It's an interesting card. It's like a lot of any of the other like reactor core cards. It's just making something go. It's something that you can choose to do as a free play engine, but then you're restricted to that. So we're just gonna give it a 3.5, same as all the other stuff like this. In Darkness, there is Strength, Seed or Play Incident. The first time you play a reman from hand each turn, if it was played to Remus or your Ryman outpost, you may play a universal reman there for free. So this then becomes like your 3rd free play. So if you have a good hand, you can free play to one of the Romulan headquarters. You can free play Formidable Warriors. And if you did that to like directly to Remus or to your Romulan outpost, you then get a universal reman there for free as well. So that's how you get like 3 free plays and still keep your card play open for like downloading a ship or playing a ship or playing some kind of like card draw event or what have you. So this is a really good card. This furthers this entire strategy. If anything, this to me is the card that's really the grease that will make the reman deck go. So we're going to give this one a 4. This is a must play in your reman deck. Alright, we have a Warp Core card, Incident. So this is downloaded with Continuing Mission. Plays on table. You may download Workhorses of the Fleet. Once each turn, you may play James T. Kirk or a movie era TNG personnel. So someone that is being given the TNG icon with Continuing Mission, which basically means the Generations logo people. When you play them, you may draw a card. You may ignore AU when playing such cards. And once each turn, one such personnel may play for free. You may not draw cards after you begin executing orders except your normal card draw, which may not exceed 1 card. So what this is that you can play these movie era TNG cards for free. But then your draws, any extra draws that you put into your deck are going to have to basically come out of hands. You're going to have to play with Let's See What's Out There. You're going to have to play with Keep As Fajal Collector, something like that. Something where your card draws come at the beginning of the turn. So I guess you could also do like Process or Mining, something like that. So all your card draws have to come at the beginning of the turn or be coming from your card play, because you're not going to get any at the end of turn. In exchange, you open up some free plays here, and then with Workhorses of the Fleet, you open up free plays of Excelsior, Miranda, Oberth, or Katinga class ships once per game per class, and then those get boosted when you complete missions or if your opponent's placing a Borg objective out there. So problem is that all of these ships tend to suck. So until you like solve that first mission, they suck as much as they always have. Even after you solve the first one, they only suck slightly less. You know, the fact that you can play a ship for free is decent. I mean, that's a decent thing. A lot of ships don't play for free, but they're just not going to get you to where you need to go. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because like if you want to play like within a region, so like you play within the neutral zone, or you play within the sector 001 region, that's all the range you need, right, in order to make those decks go. So I don't think that this card is bad, and I don't think, you know, I think between the two of them, Workhorses of the Fleet is the better card between the two of them. Because I just don't know. I mean, this doesn't really open up a whole lot of people. It really just doesn't. There isn't a whole lot of them. They need to make more. This will get better if they make more of those people, but until then, those people just tend to suck. Now, granted, like if you're playing like a continuing mission deck, you know, opening up these people is maybe helpful. You get additional card draw, but it's just, this card is like too restrictive of that deck. Like the other Warp Core cards tend to be so much better because they're not restrictive. So I'm giving this one a 1.5. I just don't like it. I just don't like how restrictive it is, the way in which it's restrictive. But Workhorses of the Fleet, I'm giving that one a 3. I feel like if you, in a deck that wants to like free play some of these ships in a region, so like their range reduction, their reduced range isn't that big of a deal, but it's giving you a free ship, you know, that's that, you know, free ships are free ships. So actually tends to be pretty good in the very rare circumstances where you get one. Like, I mean, you know, you get free ships through, you know, like Hidden Fighter. Like Hidden Fighter is heavily played, you know, because of its ability to basically get you a free ship. So I'll give this one a 3. I think there's there's possibilities for this one, but make a difference again. 1.5. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. The new Reman flagship. Seeds on table, your Remans, Scimitar, any Shinzon, and equipment may play to Remus. So you have to seed this one with In Darkness There Is Strength in order to be able to play your Remans to Remus. There's also, you could just seed your Romulan Outpost at Remus, but I don't know why you would, because you nullify the benefit of doing process or mining there. So basically you play with this instead. Once each turn, if you did not have a headquarters or time location in play, one such personnel may do so for free. So this, either you get free plays with this, or you're going to get free plays with headquarters. But you're not going to get both. So again, it's like they put this kind of restrictor plate on it so that you're not free playing like 4 different ways. They want to like maybe limit you down to like 3 free plays. I'm sure that's what playtesting came back with. That like, wow, with 4 free plays with this would be gross. If you can draw enough cards, you know, you'll go really, really fast. So that's fine. That's a fine restriction on it because of the fact that we've seen the other ways in which you get free plays. You just have to choose which one you want. Once each turn, you may kill your Reman aboard, or kill your Reman to download an equipment with Reman in title. So when you see this, you can then basically guarantee that you get your Reman the Reman Scepter on turn 1, so that you're drawing cards. Basically from turn 2. So very important, very usable. Or kill 2 of your Remans to download the Scimitar. So again, like if you free, you know, you get 2 Remans with free plays, you can just kill them to get the Scimitar. So it's like you turned 2 cards into 1 card for free. Not great, not terrible, but the Scimitar's kind of important to the deck. You know, if you're going to play with the Scimitar and Shinzon, this is super important. So I think this is good. I honestly think that this line right here may open up some shenanigans elsewhere in the game. I'm not quite sure what yet, but I've had some initial thoughts on that. You must discard, though, if you play a personnel that is not Romulan or non-aligned. So you cannot play this in like a multi-affiliation deck. So it definitely like kind of limits your use of the Scimitar, but that's fine. I'm gonna say this is like a 3.5. This is a 3.5. This is a really good card for the deck it goes in. I think it's got some potential for shenanigans elsewhere. So for that reason, we'll give it a 3.5. The Riemann Mines is an instant that you can see to play in Remus. For each of your Romulan ships placed in your point area by process or mining, your ships are weapons +1. Limited to +3. Once solved, your Romulan ships are range +2. I don't know if this is going to be worth a seed slot, but it might be. That's really kind of something that like the deck designer will have to figure out. I'm just going to give this a 3 because I don't really know how usable this is, but I can't say that it's not going to be. Fuse loose ends. Interrupt. Plays after just an opponent solves or completes a Borg objective targeting a mission that scores higher than yours. All their personnel are stopped, or you can play this to nullify no loose ends. This is basically Surprise Amity for 1E. Surprise Amity in 2E never really saw play. I was on the design team in 2E that made that card, that put it out into play. I didn't design it, but you know, the discussion about it was how can we like make it so that like people who like get way out ahead can't just like stay way out ahead. In 2E, you can, you know, draw through your deck way more reliably than you can in 1E. But if 1E, if your deck is moving along and you are drawing some cards, this is good. The problem with this is that it's basically not going to do you any more good than Mission Debriefing does. The only thing that makes it better, that, you know, makes it more usable, is the fact that then you don't have Mission Debriefing stopping you. So this is a way for non-Borg decks to kind of like slow down Borg decks. I would say that the most useful function of this card is if it is to just be used against TNG Borg, so that they cannot complete multiple Borg objectives in a single turn, where they go through a mission, they complete the dilemmas, they instantly complete their objective, and then they move on and they start another one. That's probably the best use of this card. But realistically, my personal opinion is that that's not the best way to like beat a TNG Borg deck. I think that being prepared for TNG Borg is probably, you know, you need a bit more than this to be ready for them. So I'm going to give this one a 2.5 because of the fact that it's just not really all that great outside of like maybe that one use. Because even though like Mission Debriefing sees a lot of play, it's basically seeing a lot of play because of Borg decks, you know. So non-Borg decks have just never really like, you know, never really like found a great use for Mission Debriefing. So I just don't know how great that effect really is, you know. So we'll give this a 2.5. Oh, I also don't like the fact that it nullifies a dilemma that's never been good. So it's like, oh great, you know. I mean, I get that this is a joke. This is a bit of a meme, but like if I'm rating a card, it's like, I mean, did no loose ends really deserve to take a hammer like this? So you know, it's not like no loose ends sees a lot of play anyway. But it's just like, okay, but it already didn't see a lot of play. Why are we hurting it more? But I get it. I get that it's a meme. Change of Heart closes the loose end that was out there. I think it's on like Worf and Jedzia. I think it's on another card too. May have been another card. I don't know. But this was a loose end card that didn't exist. So Interrupt plays on your unstopped personnel with honor and officer to cause a random selection present to be cancelled and reselected. Also, it nullifies rules of obedience. Now, the front half of this card, good. Not necessarily great. Like, it does happen in first edition that, like, you get hit with a random selection that, like, really sucked, and you're like, dang it. If you have, like, Worf and Jedzia, or I think the new Dinatra, like, they can definitely, like, help you out there. And it might be game-breaking. But here's the thing. Nullifying rules of obedience. Rules of obedience as a dilemma is seeing tons of play right now, because it is such a good dilemma. It kills somebody. You get to look through a bunch of your opponent's personnel before you do it. You get to choose amongst those personnel. And then it has, like, not easy requirements. And then it goes back into the mission. Like, this will see play definitively, because of that, because of this line right here. So, there's now a suite of interrupts that you can put into your deck, that you can, like, put one copy of each into your deck, and you can just kind of hammer these different, like, popular dilemmas. I don't know how great that's gonna be, but I would say this card's good because both sides of this ore are good on their own. So I'm gonna give this a 4. I'm gonna give this card a 4. And the fact that it's an interrupt means it doesn't cost you a play, and it can respond. And there are a couple people that special download it. So I don't know whether or not this card will make people who play DS9 want to play with Worf and Jedzia over Worf and Jedzia separately. But, playing with Worf and Jedzia in decks that can download them, put them into play, and have them get card draws with the cafe for card draws, will be very happy that this card now exists, that they now can worry less about rules of obedience. So definitely a 4. Solid 4. Escape makes its debut finally in first edition. When any number of your personnel are selected to be killed by dilemma, randomly discard an equal number of cards from hand. Those personnel are stopped instead. Randomly discarding the cards can be very dangerous, but keeping people alive when, like, you face down, like, a Den of Neuroparasites is really good. Den of Neuro, though, has, like, kind of lost favor over time for a variety of different reasons. But if your deck is weak to it, if you just don't have the ability to put, like, a bunch of hand weapons in your deck to beat Denovan, well, this card can help with that. It's also pretty good in situations like with Change of Heart, where, like, dang it, my opponent got just, like, the wrong person. I can't have this person die. Any card in your hand is better. Losing any card in your hand is better than that person dying. So this is a good card. We'll give it a 3.5. Confront Duplicate. This is kind of the, like, well, we have to put this card in this set because it's the location where this, where Nemesis occurs. So, where the penultimate moment occurs. So, it's a nebula. So, like, board decks will like this mission as another nebula option that's unique. As far as solving this mission, though, Officer ×4 or then any Shinzan or any Jean-Luc Picard means that, like, this is going to be very difficult to solve, especially for just 30 points. You get to 35 if you've got empathy present, but, basically 4 Officer plus a specific dude plus empathy for 35 points is a bit much on a 4-span space mission. Yeah. We'll give this a 2. And that 2 is basically just because it's going to be usable for, like, board decks that want to have another nebula. We did activate Thaleron weapon, investigate warp signature. This is a Vulcan card. Seeds on Earth. You must download Launch the Phoenix. Your Vulcan personnel may attempt Earth with these requirements, and then if solved, missions worth 30 instead of 40. But it is worth 40 if the Phoenix is in orbit at this mission, or Montana. If Phoenix in orbit at this mission or Montana Missile Complex. I guess I don't understand what this means. I feel like this is bad. This is bad English here. When solved, mission worth 30 points or 40 points if Phoenix in orbit at this mission or or Montana Missile Complex. Oh, I see. So like you just launch. It's saying that it's either in orbit of Montana Missile Complex and the Phoenix did not go to the main timeline, or if you've just simply put Phoenix in orbit on the actual space line, it'll be worth 40 points. I got it now. Just had to do some thinking. Good for a Vulcan deck to be able to attempt, big 40-point Earth. You can either do, and you can also do like the Starfleet Earth with this as well. Since of this last line right here, I think Vulcans will. I think Vulcan decks will like this, but it kind of relies on needing. You don't have to have Vulcan Lander because you can just do the cunning greater than 30 side of it. So, it just turns Earth into a mission that Vulcans can do in that way. So, solid card, give it a 3. But it only seeds on Earth. That's actually, let's also make note of the fact that it only seeds on Earth. So you can't taking charge this because it only seeds. And you must download Launch the Phoenix. So, it's a 3. Okay, my favorite card of the set. Objective. Seeds at the same mission as a Space Lab Regular 1, Amagrosa Observatory, or a Science Lab. Science Lab being the site that goes on a NOR. You may immediately seed an artifact here, so that does still cost you your seed slot, so that artifact is not free, but since you seed this after the normal dilemmas and self-seed phase, that artifact is the first to be faced. That is potentially relevant for a few things. Most notably, you can do HQ Return Orb to Bajor, and then have an orb artifact first, and you can get that orb without having to solve the mission. That's huge. Your non-Federation crew or away team may attempt with these requirements. Now, this means that you cannot have any feds. So, if you attempt it with these requirements, you cannot have any feds. You cannot attempt it under these requirements if there are any feds in that crew or away team. Okay, so this is for non-feds. Security times 3 plus strength greater than the point value of the mission. Excuse me. When solved, if you did not earn an artifact here, you may download up to 3 equipment here. This is unique, so you can only do this once. You can't have the Space Lab and Amagrosa and a Science Lab and do this like 3 times. Alright, not going to happen. What I think is that I've already come up with 3 decks in just less than in a week that do wildly different things and all play this card, and they all play it for different reasons. This card is incredibly versatile. Mainly the Science Lab one, so that like Cardassians will use it with a NOR. Deep Space Nine decks will use it at Deep Space Nine. Just they'll just have the Science Lab be one of their free, their 6 free sites. Space Lab Regular 1, if you're choosing to do that in a deck where, if you're choosing to use that in a deck where you're trying to hammer science, well then you can put this in play. Amagrosa Observatory is essentially for free. You just have to seed the mission. So like if you wanna, so that this makes that mission like more, makes it much more desirable to use it, because like Amagrosa Observatory doesn't cost you a seed card, because it just comes into play for free when you seed the mission. So you seed that mission, you get Amagrosa Observatory, you seed this, and then you seed an artifact in space, which you don't normally get to do. And there's lots of artifacts that get better if you can get them at a space mission first. So it's always been a thing where you went cryo-satellite into the Genesis device, or cryo-satellite into Blade of Takan, or something like that. So this just becomes a way that you don't have to seed an AU door to seed the cryo-satellite to seed one of those artifacts. You can do it with just this. And Amagrosa Observatory is the best way, because then it doesn't cost you any additional seed card. So that actually makes this a -1 seed cost for that trick, right? So, amazing card. This is a 5. This card is a 5. And I'm not even talking about the shenanigans that have the potential here with downloading three equipment instead. So the cost of like one seed card, you can solve the mission and get 3 equipment, and that's a ton of versatility. So this card's a 5, easily a 5. 17 of 17, Assimilated Hawk. This is great. I love this card. I mean, in Borg decks, a drone with nav ×2 is not that big of a deal. Drone with security, not that big of a deal. Environmental suit might be important because it could potentially, like, you know, they try to kill your queen or kill your Locutus and you save them. So I think this right here is the most important function of this drone, and that alone is actually really, really good for like busting up an opponent's attempt at exploiting Borg weakness. So this card is actually like really, really good. May report to any USS Enterprise E. I don't know how functional that is. I don't know how boosting your Borg Enterprise E is. That's kind of that's a bit of a toughie, but this guy is definitely usable as a green drone who can protect people. So we'll give this guy a 4. Definitely a 4. Alright, we're going to power through the remaining personnel here. We're going to just power through the rest of this. I'm just going to give, like, this Beverly Crusher is a 4. I pioneered a really good infiltrator deck, and Enterprise E was extremely weak to it. So this is definitely a preferable choice for Enterprise E. If you think that like infiltrators are going to be in the meta, so this is a 3.5. This data is still not downloadable with Quark's rods. I don't know. His skill suite is simply not as good as this version. Security sacrifice. Yeah, I don't know how good. I don't know how good that's gonna be. Because unlike Change of Heart, you don't just get to like redo any selection. This is one where like, oh, it has to specifically be killing someone. So I don't know, 2.5. This Jean-Luc Picard, as far as Enterprise E decks is concerned, I don't see this one as being. This one's probably. It's better than this one, right? But I would say is definitely worse than this one because the security download, and this gets a hand weapon, and he's got the subcommand icons for abuse with nanoprobes. This is still going to be the best version that you're probably going to play with, but this downloading escape and having geology combinations, not bad. We'll give him a 3. This guy here is like a 4, 4.5. So this guy being a 3.5, it's like 3, 3.5. It's okay. A new personnel, 5 skills, all of them good. Officer. Gets you a new personnel into the deck. He's good. I like him. 3.5. Wesley Crusher that can be downloaded with Quark's rods is pretty good. Ignoring range reductions, also good. I don't know how important that would be in most games, but you know, if your ship takes damage, then your Enterprise E can still fly its 10 plus range to get back to like repair. So, you know, that's pretty good. Skills are good. Like this combination of Astro Anthro is in computer skill ×2 is extremely rare. So I think this is a good card. We'll give it 3.5. Infiltrator Klingon Geordi LaForge. Double engineer physics, cybernetics, and can download prefix code transmission. So allows your Klingons to shoot something better. I don't think he's downloadable in any way. So like the cybernetics doesn't really like. it doesn't really like enable Klingons to be able to do androids, because I don't think that he's really downloadable in any way. So I don't really know how good this is. I would say, I don't know, I think it's 2.5. B4, dual icons, either Romulan or he's not aligned, civilian, Federation infiltrator. 3 or 7 on the integrity and cutting, being super flexible is nothing to sneeze at. So if you're playing, an android deck or whatever, the fact that you can like manipulate these is probably pretty functional. Once per game, may gain a regular skill if not playing Fed. So if you're playing Romulan, androids of any kind, or if you're just playing any other like non-Fed version where you're doing androids, gaining any regular skill is extremely useful to get through dilemmas. So for that reason alone, this guy's a 4. If no tail shed aboard, may report aboard your scimitar. That's but yeah, like the ability for an android deck to dial a skill, as long as it's not a fed android deck, just dialing a skill in this game is really good. Non-aligned Guinan, the first time an opponent draws a card every turn, except at the end of turn you may draw a card. This is really, really good. This is really, really good. The problem is that there's just no real way to get her into play early. Unless you commandeer Empok Nor into non-aligned mode, and then you download her with Promenade Shops. I can't think of like really any other way. I guess you can Q-Stent for her and play her. But you're giving up a draw or draws on the first turn in order to get draws later. And it's basically just one draw on your opponent's turn. So, like, she's basically just like a card draw engine. You have to think of her just as like an additional card draw engine, but without any real way to get her into play quickly. I don't see how she's gonna be like great. She's got a Nemesis icon logo, so you can't even really put her into a DS9 deck. I would wonder if she's downloadable with like Quark's Bar, since she's a bartender. I guess we'll have to find out here. Let's just take a quick look here. Quark's Bar. Nope. No. Just plays for free. Oh, or download here and plays for no. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, you could download her with Quark's Bar. You could download, but you can't do that in a DS. You can't do that in a Reshape deck. So that's interesting. Let's give her a 3.5, just because of the fact that, again, the ability to get extra card draws is always good. Here's the Denatra that downloads Change of Heart. She's got 3 classifications and 2 very usable skills. And she's a managing commander of a ship, so she's a 4 with a command star. Hiren, 5 skills. These 4 are pretty useful. I think he plays for free. Yeah. I mean, he plays for free to Office of the Proconsul, and plays for free to Office of the Proconsul. So that's pretty good. So yeah, we'll give him, and he's got 5 skills. It's not bad. We'll give him a 3. We'll give him a 3.5, if not a 4. Mullen gets pulled over from his 2nd edition card. He's got archaeology, but it's on an officer, so it's kind of a weaker archaeology. But Arc Nav, computer skills, security. He's got 4 skills. He's got respectable stats. He's an officer with a command star. We'll give him a 3.5. Noram, officer with leader and exo. So he's a support personnel, so he can be downloaded. The problem with him though is that even though he's like your Romulan support, he's a Romulan support personnel. He's not any of the things that enable taking charge. So like you couldn't just be like, oh, I'm gonna download him and get my taking charge going. But he is universal with a command star, which that's always good. So we'll give him a 3. Saran, ambitious commander. Also, again, not a captain, not an admiral, whatever. While at a nebula, your armament ships are weapons +3, so he's potentially good in a for the Bassin Rift. He's good for P and Z decks, I guess. He is security, so he's downloadable. His skills are pretty meh. The combination of them is pretty meh. Officer with a command star, I don't know, 3. The problem is that with the Nemesis icon, it's just he's Talvin, universal officer with Anthrogeo stellar cartography. I mean, Anthrogeo is gonna be decent. Again, just a commander. Of course, these guys are all dissidents, so they have the ability to be like downloaded with the dilemma that downloads dissidents. To have, so you can play that dilemma in your Riemann deck to have them potentially hold your opponent up. But he's pretty meh. He's a filler dude. 2.5. Thalpit, here's a unique Riemann with science and computer skill, and if played from hand, you may take a discarded card to hand, so he rebuys you something. That's going to be very, very useful. So this guy's a 3.5. Upexi, officer security with exo computer skill, play from hand, play an equipment card for free. So he's a card that you can play for free, which then enables another card for free. Things that string free plays along, pretty good. 3.5. Here's our guy. He's got good skills. He's an engineer with empathy and diplomacy, which is extremely rare. He might be the only one even. I don't know. And if played from hand, you may play a Romulan leader here for free. So again, plays for free, enables another free play, which is definitely good. But he is AU icon. He's an AU icon. So in order to use him in your Riemann deck, you have to also seed something that allows you to play AU cards. So he basically is like kind of costing you a seed card in your Riemann deck. So, I guess that's the price to pay for him being so good in so many other ways. He would have been probably a 4.5, but the fact he's got the AO kind, I can't do better than a 3.5. Because it's costing you an extra seed card. Now maybe that extra seed card doesn't matter to you because you need the AU for other stuff, but such as Young Shinzon. So if played from hand, you may play a Romulan or an equipment card for free here. So if you get lucky and you get Young Shinzon and Vakruk, you can string them along. You go Vakruk into Shinzon. Play Vakruk for free, into Shinzon for free, into some other Riemann for free. Like maybe you grab Upexi or whatever the heck his name was. And he gets you like an equipment card for free, and there's a possibility for some quick early game action, but then you gotta have the card draws to back it up. So we'll give Young Shinzon the same 3.5. We go into the Vulcans real quick. I'm not like super familiar with Vulcans. This guy's probably going to be decent, I guess, because again he's a card draw machine. So we'll give him a 3.5 just on that. Solkar's got 5 skills that are all really, really good, so he's definitely a 3.5 minimum. Tashanra doubles virtual skills granted by ships that she is aboard, so she makes all Vulcan ships better. That's really good. Plus she's Science Astro combination with a staff star, so another 3.5 easy. Here's the Farragut. It's nice to see a Nebula class ship. It is unique, has a holodeck, has a tractor beam, and downloads the versatile vessel, has 8 range. We'll give it a 3. Here's one of the new Romulan ships. Has a cloaking device. 999, so it's good stats. We'll give it a 3. It's universal, so it kind of will form the backbone of your deck. 6 range. It's a shuttlecraft, but it does have staffing requirements, so this is not downloadable with Hidden Fighter, but it does get you a special download of Engaged Shuttle Operations. We'll give it a 3, because I just don't, I'm sure it's fine for what you're going to use it for, but it's not doing anything that's spectacular. Valdor. Here's the other, this is the unique new Romulan warbird. Does allow you to initiate battle against other Romulans. This is really important for that deck, because if you expect to, especially early on, maybe expect to see some mirror matches, you can initiate battle against your opponent, since you're both going to be like in the Romulan system. 2 command stars and a staff star for a 9/9/10 is to be expected. Does have a matching commander. Give it a 3.5. And lastly, the Vulcan lander has no transporters, may report landed, and then may take off or land. So it has its own built-in taking off landing rate, so you don't need any additional help for that. And then of course with the other dude who allows you to like draw cards, this will be pretty good. So we'll just give this a 3. I think that there's some shenanigans that might take place with this. I don't know. Yeah. There's probably some shenanigans that are going to take place with this card, because it's an AU universal ship. So, but yeah, we'll give it a 3. So that's the set. I would say, based upon just kind of my general understanding, I didn't keep track of it in a spreadsheet to give you an exact number, but kind of feel like this set comes in at a 3.5. I'm definitely looking forward to using and abusing recovered and stolen material, and then I'm really curious to see what other people come up with. I am excited though that there's this to just kind of build a very simple deck around for new players, so you can build a TNG movie deck with these cards and have it be something that, you know, like your average person that you would teach the game to would at least recognize the people and stuff. So that's pretty good. Yeah, so you know, feel free to comment on your thoughts on whether or not what you agree with and disagree with on me. If there's any shenanigans you've come up with, feel free to post it. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, and may the profits be with you.